The rain fell hard at the airport. Thick clouds covered the sky. Passengers rushed through the arrival gates, holding umbrellas, pulling bags, and searching for taxis. Among them was a quiet man sitting near Gate 9. He looked different, calm, serious, and strong. His name was Captain Zayan. He wore a faded military jacket. His shoes were dusty. In his hand, he held an old photo, 3 men in army uniforms smiling at the camera. 2 of them were no longer alive. Zayan was returning home after 5 long years. The war had ended, but the pain inside him had not. He had just received the nation's highest honor, a medal given to very few people. But Zayan didn't smile. He held the medal in his hand, but his heart was heavy, a hero. Without fame, Zayan had never chased fame. He didn't like cameras or interviews. When the award was announced, he accepted it quietly. The ceremony was short, no speeches, no media, just a few handshakes, a salute, and a medal placed inside a black box. Inside the plane, he sat near the window. He didn't watch the movie. He didn't eat much. He just stared outside, remembering the faces of his teammates. His seatmate, a young man named Bilal, looked at him curiously. "You're in the army?" he asked. Zayan smiled politely. "I was." Bilal noticed the metal box and leaned forward. "That looks important." Zayan said nothing. He gently closed the box and put it inside his small hand-carry bag. Bilal didn't ask again, but before they landed, he shook Zayan's hand and said, "Thank you." The arrival. When the plane landed, Zayan waited for others to leave first. He didn't like crowds. He stepped out last, walked slowly through the airport, and followed the signs to the luggage belt. People were rushing. Children were crying. Luggage. Belts were full. Zayan stood silently and waited. His eyes looked tired. He had only one checked bag. In that bag was the letter he had written for his son, his old army dog tag, and a photo of his fallen best friend, Major Adil. Minutes passed. Bags came and went. One by one, people picked up their luggage and left, but Zayan's bag never appeared. The missing bag Zayan walked to the airline counter. A board staff member looked up. "Yes, sir. My bag is missing," Zayan said calmly. "Tag. Number?" He showed her the slip. She typed quickly on her keyboard, frowned, then said, "It says your bag was offloaded in Dubai by mistake. It might come tomorrow." Zayan's eyes didn't move, but his voice dropped. "That bag has something important." "We understand, sir. It happens sometimes. Please fill out this form." Zayan filled the form slowly. In the background, announcements continued. "Flight 247 to Jeddah is now boarding." "Can you please make sure it is safe?" Zayan asked. The staff member gave a tired smile. "Don't worry, your bag is not lost. It's just delayed." But Zayan wasn't worried about the bag. He was worried about what was inside. The medal and the letter in that bag was not just a medal. It was a memory. The letter inside was written before his final mission. It said, "If I don't return, give this to my son. Tell him his father stood for something. Tell him I wasn't perfect, but I tried to be brave. I tried to come home." Zayan had survived, but he had never found the courage to read that letter with his son. He wanted to wait for the right moment. Maybe today was the day. But now the bag was gone, and with it, the chance to finally say what he had kept inside for years. Walking out. A lone Zayan walked out of the airport empty-handed. Outside, the rain had stopped, but inside, a storm had started. His taxi driver, an old man with a kind smile, helped him sit in the back seat. "No bags?" the driver asked. Zayan shook his head. "Not today." As the car moved through the wet streets, Zayan looked out the window. Familiar roads, old memories. Nothing had changed. But he had. He was not the same man who had left. The driver played soft radio music. a song about returning home. Zion closed his eyes. Tears rolled, down slowly, silently. He turned his face so the driver wouldn't see. Flashback, the battle that changed everything. 1 year ago, in the hills of Balochistan, Zion's team had been trapped. Bullets were flying, smoke everywhere. His friend Major Adil had been shot. Zion carried him on his back for 3 kilometers, under fire, just to save his life. But Adil didn't make it. His last words, "Take care of your boy, brother. Tell him about us." Zion never forgot those words. That's why the letter, the photo, and the medal were more than just things. They were promises. Broken now, lost in an airport system that didn't care. Back home, but not whole. When Zion reached his house, his young son ran to hug him. His wife stood in the doorway, eyes full of tears. The reunion was warm, but short. "Where's the bag?" his wife asked. Zion forced a smile. "They'll bring it tomorrow." His son pulled his hand. "Did you bring me something?" Zion nodded and knelt down. "Yes, but it's on the way." He touched his son's face and thought, "He will never understand what I left behind to return." And now, the most important part is not even with me. The sun rose slowly the next morning, but Captain Zion couldn't sleep. He had barely closed his eyes. All night, he kept thinking about the bag, the medal, the letter, the memories. He kept checking his phone for updates. Nothing. At 7 a.m., he called the airline again. The customer service agent, a young woman with a tired voice, answered. "Sir, your bag is still in process." "We are checking." Zion asked softly, "Is it safe?" She replied, "It should be. Don't worry." But he was worried, more than anyone could understand. Why the metal mattered. To others, it was just a medal, just a piece of metal. But to Zion, it was a story, a symbol, a part of his soul. That medal was not given for winning a battle. It was given for saving lives under fire, for risking everything when he could have run, for carrying Major Adil on his back while bullets flew past his head. And it wasn't just the medal, it was the letter, too. A letter he wrote before his final mission, a letter for his son. If he didn't return, now he was alive, but the words were missing. The visit to the airport. That afternoon, Zion didn't wait for another phone call. He got up, put on his army jacket, and went back to the airport. He walked straight to the lost baggage office. The staff recognized him. They had seen his story on social media. One of the passengers had posted a photo of him waiting alone, with the caption, "This man is a hero. Why is no one helping him?" But even with that, no one had found the bag yet. A manager came out to speak with him. "Sir, we're really sorry for the delay. We're trying our best. These things happen sometimes." Zion looked into the man's eyes. "Sir, this is not about a shirt or a toothbrush. That bag has my identity inside. That medal is not just mine. It's a memory of my friend who died." The manager nodded. "We understand. We're looking into it personally now." But Zion could see the truth. They didn't really understand. The warehouse confusion behind the scenes. The bag was somewhere in a warehouse. It had been mistakenly loaded onto a flight to another city, then left at a regional airport. There, it sat among dozens of other bags. No one opened it. No one checked. To them, it was just another piece of luggage. The bag had no priority tag. No one knew what was inside. An old worker in the storage room saw the military sticker and wondered, aloud, "Maybe this is important?" But his supervisor shrugged. "Just tag it for the next flight. We'll deal with it later." Zion's pain grows back home. Zion's son asked again, "Abu, where is my surprise?" Zion smiled sadly. "It's coming soon, beta. He didn't want to show his pain. But inside, he felt broken. The medal was not just a gift, it was a bridge between his past and his future, between who he was and who he wanted his son to believe he was. That night, he opened his cupboard and took out Adil's photo, his best friend, his brother in arms. "I failed you," he whispered. Flashback. The promise. 2 years ago, during a dangerous mission, Adil had been hit. Blood poured from his chest. Zion was injured too, but he didn't run. He carried Adil on his shoulders, crawling through rocks, dodging bullets, for hours. When Adil realized he wouldn't survive, he grabbed Zion's hand and said, "Zion, if you live, tell your son, be better than us. Don't just wear a uniform, wear a heart." Zion had written those words down in the letter now missing in the bag. That promise was his mission. A friend speaks out the next day. One of Zion's Army friends, Colonel Harris, went on national TV. He said, "I served with Captain Zayn. He is one of the bravest men I've ever known. If his medal is lost, then we haven't just lost a bag. We've lost our honor." His words went viral. The video was shared everywhere. News channels picked it up. Hashtags started trending. Find the medal. Honor Zion. People began calling the Airline non-stop. Thousands of messages poured in. The airline's public relations team began to panic, but the medal was still missing. The call that changed everything. That evening, Zion received a call. "Sir, we think we have found your bag." Zayn stood up, heart pounding. "Where?" "At our regional airport warehouse. It matches the tag. We're flying it back tonight." Zayn closed his eyes in relief. "Please, don't let anything be missing." But there's a twist. An hour later, the airline called again. "Sir, the bag arrived, but the metal box is not inside." Zion froze. "What do you mean?" "The bag was opened by mistake for checking. We found clothes, a photo. But the metal box and the letter are missing." Silence. Zion felt the world go quiet. Not again. Not after everything. The airport was almost empty. It was late night, and only a few lights were still on. In one corner of the storage basement, an old cleaning lady named Auntie Nasim swept the floor slowly. She was tired, but she never rushed her work. As she bent down to collect some papers near an old storage shelf, something caught her eye. A black box had fallen behind the wooden cabinet. She picked it up carefully. It had a golden emblem on it, simple but shining. When she opened the box, her eyes widened. Inside was a medal unlike any she had ever seen. Below the medal was an envelope. It was sealed. On the front, it was written in neat handwriting. "For my son, if I don't return." Auntie Nasim's hands stopped. Her heart felt heavy. She sat down on a small stool and stared at the envelope for a long time. A simple woman with a big heart, Auntie Nasim didn't know much about war or medals. But she knew what a letter from a father to a child meant. She had lost her husband years ago and raised 3 children on her own. She whispered to herself, "This is not garbage. This is someone's pain." She looked around. No one was there. The room was silent, except for the soft humming of an old fan. She stood up, walked to the small office next to the storage room, and knocked. A young employee opened the door. "Yes." "Auntie?" "I found this behind the shelf," she said, showing him the medal and the letter. The boy looked at it and shrugged. "Oh, this is probably from that army guy everyone's talking about. Put it in the lost and found bin." "No," she said softly but firmly. "This is not just lost. This is precious. Some people care, some don't, but no one in the office took her seriously. They were busy with files and phones. She placed the box on a table and left quietly, but her heart wouldn't rest. She thought all night about that letter. What if it was never delivered? What if the boy never read his father's words? She didn't sleep. Meanwhile, at Zayan's home, Captain Zayan was sitting in his small home office. The medal was still missing. The letter was gone. He felt like a part of himself had vanished. His son came in and sat next to him. "Abu, were you scared in the war?" Zayan looked at him gently. "Yes, very scared. But I was more scared of not coming home to you." The boy smiled. "You came back. That's what matters." Zayan hugged him tight. But inside, he knew something was incomplete. The letter's journey begins the next morning. Auntie Nasim took a big step. She didn't return the medal to storage. Instead, she took a photo of the medal and envelope and sent it to her nephew, who worked in a media company. She wrote, "I found this at the airport. Please help me return it to the soldier everyone is talking about." Within minutes, her nephew replied, "This belongs to Captain Zayan. It's on the news. I'll send a reporter right away." A small chain of kindness had begun. Backlash at the airline. At the same time, pressure was rising. On the airline, news channels kept asking, "Where is the medal? Why was it lost? Will someone be held responsible?" The CEO sat in a meeting with his managers. "How can a national honor just vanish?" he shouted. No one had an answer. That's when the media company called. "We have it," they said. "A cleaner found it. It was in your basement." Silence filled the room. Zayan gets a call. Zayan was having tea on his porch when his phone rang. "Captain Zayan?" a voice said. "Yes? We've found your medal. And the letter." Zayan stood up, stunned. "Are you sure?" "Yes, sir. A cleaning lady found it. She's the reason it's coming back to you." Zayan didn't know what to say. His voice cracked as he whispered, "Thank you. Thank you so much." An emotional return that evening. A small group from the media company and airport management came to Zayan's house. With them was Auntie Nasim, holding a small velvet box. She stepped forward slowly and placed it in Zayan's hands. "This didn't belong in a bin," she said. "It belonged in your heart." Zayan opened the box. The medal was there, shining, untouched. He held the letter gently, hands trembling. He looked at Auntie Nasim and said, "You've done more than what I ever expected. Thank you." From a father and a soldier. Tears filled his eyes. The first time he read it. That night, after everyone left, Zayan sat on his bed. His wife sat beside him. Their son was asleep. He opened the letter slowly. It read, "My dear son, if you're reading this, then I couldn't come home. But I want you to know something. I didn't fight because I loved war. I fought because I loved peace. I wanted you to grow up in a safe world. Be kind, be strong, and never forget that your father tried. I wasn't perfect, but I loved you with everything I had. Your father, Zayan." Zayan didn't speak for a long time. His wife held his hand. They both cried silently. Captain Zayan's story was no longer just his own. It had become everyone's story. A soldier who served with his heart, a medal that went missing, and a letter that almost never reached home. What started as a mistake by an airline was now turning into a nationwide storm. A viral video 2 days after Zayan got his medal and letter back, a video appeared online. It was shaky, taken from a phone camera at the airport. In the video, Zayan was sitting alone at the baggage claim area. His eyes were tired. He was holding nothing in his hands. He looked like a man forgotten by the very people he protected. The caption read, "This man saved lives. He came back with the nation's highest honor. The airline lost his bag. And no one cared." The video exploded. Millions watch, millions react within hours. It was everywhere. Facebook, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Twitter. People commented, This is how we treat heroes? Heartbreaking. I cried watching this. Shame on the airline. Where is our respect? Famous actors, politicians, and athletes shared the video. Even the president of the country reposted it with the words, "Real heroes walk quietly, but we must never ignore their steps." The public turns. Angry people began protesting online. They tagged the airline in every post. Hashtags started trending. Respect Zayan, Nashchak return. The honor, Lash justice for our soldier. Thousands of emails and messages flooded the airline's inbox. Their social media pages were full of angry comments. You lost more than a bag. You lost our trust. Apologize publicly or face boycott. The airline had no choice. They had to act fast. The internal panic at the airline headquarters, chaos broke out. Meetings were called every hour. We need to control the damage, one manager shouted. Our mistake is everywhere, another said. But the truth was, it was not just a mistake, it was carelessness. And now, they were being held accountable. The CEO, Mr. Hassan, sat in silence watching the video. For the first time, he realized the weight of the error. He said softly, "We didn't just lose a bag, we lost our dignity." An unexpected offer. Airline reached out to Captain Zayan. They offered him free first-class tickets for life, a public event to honor him, a special VIP card, a cash compensation. Zayan listened quietly. Then he replied, "I don't want money. I don't want VIP status. I just want people like me to be treated with respect, even when no one is watching." The interview that melted hearts. A famous journalist visited Zayan's home to take his interview. She asked, "Captain, why didn't you go to the media earlier? Why stay silent?" Zayan looked straight at the camera and replied, "Because I didn't fight for attention. I fought so others could live in peace. I never expected anything. But when the things that mean everything to you are treated like trash, it hurts. Not just as a soldier, but as a human." The interview went viral, too. The nation reacts again. Schools began sharing Zayan's story in morning assemblies. Children made drawings of him, writing messages like, "Thank you for protecting us." Real heroes don't wear capes, they wear courage. A college invited him as a guest speaker. Veterans stood and saluted him when he entered. One student asked him, "Sir, how do you stay calm when people disappoint you?" Zayan smiled and replied, "Because anger is easy, but holding your pain with grace, that's true strength." A stranger comes forward. As the attention grew, someone messaged a local news reporter anonymously. The message said, "I know who tried to sell the metal box online." The message included a name, Farhan Ali, a temporary worker at the storage room. Farhan had found the box first, but tried to sell the metal and letter on a private site. He didn't know what they meant. To him, it was just something military. The airline fired him immediately. He was arrested for theft and disrespect to national property. Zayan didn't react with anger. When asked for comment, he said, "Let justice speak, not me." Zayan's quiet strength. Despite the media attention, Zayan stayed humble. He refused to attend grand events. He continued to live in his small home, drink chai on his porch, and play cricket with his son in the street. His wife once asked, "Why don't you show them how much this hurt you?" Zayan answered, "Because those who truly understand pain don't need to scream, and those who don't understand won't hear it even if you shout." The office was silent. The lights were dim. On the large screen in front of him, CEO Hassan watched a video of Captain Zayan's interview again. Zayan's words echoed in the quiet room. "I didn't fight for attention. I fought so others could live in peace." Hassan paused the video. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. This wasn't just another PR problem. This was a moral failure. Hassan's past. Hassan was not always a CEO. Years ago, he was just a boy watching his father return from the army with a limp and a medal. His father never spoke much, but Hassan remembered the pride in his mother's eyes when she cleaned that medal every morning. That memory now came flooding back. He looked at the photo on his desk, his father in uniform, and he whispered, "Abu, I failed." The decision to speak. That evening, Hassan called an emergency press conference. Reporters rushed in. The whole country watched live on TV and social media. Hassan walked up to the podium holding no notes. His voice was calm but heavy. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to give a statement. I'm here to apologize not just as a CEO, but as a citizen of this country." He continued, "What happened to Captain Zayan was not a small mistake. It was a shameful moment in our history. A man who gave everything was treated like nothing, and that is our failure." The room was silent. He faces the nation. Hassan went on. "We offered him VIP tickets, money, even a public event, but he said no. He reminded us that respect is not something you buy, it's something you show. From today, we are making real changes, all. Veterans' luggage will be marked as priority. Any lost item will be tracked personally. And above all, we are starting a fund in Captain Zayan's name to help soldiers and their families who return with silence, not celebration." The crowd began clapping. Some reporters had tears in their eyes. Zayan watches from home. Back in his home, Zayan was watching the press conference on TV. His son sat beside him, munching on biscuits. When the CEO mentioned the new fund in his name, Zayan raised his eyebrows. His wife looked at him. "You didn't expect this, did you?" Zayan shook his head. "No, but I'm glad." Someone finally said sorry. His son looked up. "What's a fund, Abu?" Zayan smiled. "It's something that helps people who need it most." But not everyone. Claps. While many praised Hassan's apology, others weren't satisfied. Some journalists asked, why did it take a viral video for action? How many other stories were buried? What if the cleaning lady never found the letter? Others dug deeper. They discovered that the person who tried to sell the medal online wasn't working alone. There was a cover-up. A junior manager had told staff to keep it quiet when the medal was first found, so it wouldn't reach the media. Now he had gone missing. A new mystery begins. That same night, Zayan received another message on his phone. No name, just a number. "The man who delayed your medal did it on purpose. Check the airport CCTV from 3 nights ago. The truth is bigger than you think." Zayan showed the message to his wife. "Do you think it's real?" she asked. "I don't know," he replied. "But something tells me this isn't over yet." Flashback. The real enemy. Zayan remembered a different kind of battlefield, not with guns, but with lies. Years ago, he had once stopped a weapons smuggling ring while serving in a remote border region. Some powerful people lost money because of him. He was told to stay quiet, but he didn't. And now, years later, was someone trying to get back at him? Was the medal just carelessly lost? Or was it a message to the public? The next day, Zayan posted something on his social media. "Thank you to everyone who supported me. Your voices turned silence into action. I have no hate. But I still have questions. I don't want attention. But I do want truth, because if it wasn't me, it could have been another soldier, and next time, there might be no second chance." The post was shared over 1 million times in just one day. A secret meeting request. 2 days later, Zayan got a letter, not from the airline, not from the government, but from an old intelligence officer he once worked with. The letter said, "Meet me at the old park near Clifton. Midnight. There's something you need to see. You were right not to stay silent." Zayan folded the letter and placed it in his pocket. He told his wife, "I need to go out for a walk." She didn't ask questions, She only said, "Come back safe," ending with strong suspense. Zion stepped into the night, wearing a simple black jacket. The streets were quiet. The city was asleep, but the truth was awake. As he walked through the foggy park, a figure stood under a street lamp, an old man in a long coat. The man turned slowly, his face hidden in shadows. "Captain Zayan," he said, "you think this all started with a lost medal?" The park was dark and silent. Captain Zayan stood face to face with the mysterious man in the long coat. He had wrinkles around his eyes, a calm voice, and a presence that could silence noise. "You stopped something once," the man said. "Now, it's trying to return. And the lost medal wasn't an accident." Zion kept his voice steady. "What are you saying?" The man looked around, then stepped closer. "There are people who never forgave you for what you exposed years ago. That medal was meant to disappear quietly, just like your name." Zion's jaw tightened. "But it didn't," he said. "No," the man replied, "because the people didn't let it. The power of the people across the country, people had begun waking up, not just to Zion's story, but to every soldier's story. Stories that were hidden, forgotten, or pushed aside. Children in schools made art projects with captions like, 'My hero wears boots, not a cape.' 'Thank you for giving me peace.' Veterans who had been silent for years began sharing their journeys online. One wrote, 'When I returned home from war, no one met me, not even a handshake. But now, because of Zayan, people are listening.' Zayan had not spoken loudly, but his silence had become a microphone for others. Letters from strangers. Every morning, Zayan's gate was filled with letters, handwritten, notes from school children, drawings of the medal, stories from other soldiers. Mothers saying, 'You remind me of my son.' One letter had only 4 words, 'You gave me hope.' Zayan read them all. He kept every letter in a large box under his bed, because to him these were worth more than any medal, a movement. Begins inspired by his story, a group of young university students started a campaign, Project Silent Salute. They visited the homes of retired soldiers, cleaned their gardens, painted their gates, and left behind one card. "Thank you. We didn't forget." Videos of the project went viral. Old men cried on camera. Young boys saluted their elders. The internet was full of emotion. Zayan watched it all with quiet pride. The children's assembly one day, a local school, invited Zayan to speak. He didn't want to go at first. He wasn't used to applause, but his wife said, "Go. The children need to see who a real hero looks like." When he entered the school hall, hundreds of children stood and clapped. Not loudly, just gently with respect. A little girl walked up to him and said, "My Baba is a soldier too. But no one talks about him. Can you tell people he's brave?" Zayan knelt down and smiled. "I just did." The speech that moved a nation at the school, Zayan gave a short speech. No long words, no big sentences, just truth. You don't need to go to war to be brave. Bravery is also telling the truth when it's hard, saying sorry when it's easy to stay silent, and standing with someone even when the world doesn't. I am not special. I just refuse to stay quiet. The speech was recorded and posted online. It reached 5 million views in 24 hours. Back to the park. That night, Zayan returned to the park. The man in the long coat handed him a small USB drive. "It has airport security footage. It shows who removed the metal box," Zayan asked. "Why are you helping me?" the man replied. "Because once, years ago, you saved my nephew in a village during the flood relief mission. I never forgot." Zayan took the drive. "Thank you." "Be careful," the man said. "You're not just a hero anymore. You're a symbol, and symbols scare powerful people. A nation responds with art soon. Walls across the country were filled with murals of Zion. One large painting in Karachi showed Zion standing alone, medal in hand, with the words, "He didn't ask for praise, but we owe him more than silence." Another in Lahore showed a child drawing the letter Z on paper with the caption, "Z for Zion, Z for Zakir, Z for every forgotten soldier." Poets wrote about him. Singers released emotional songs. Documentaries started production, but Zion remained calm through it all. He said only one thing in every interview: "This isn't about me. It's about remembering the ones who never made it home." Flashback, a brother's promise. One evening, Zion sat on his rooftop again. The sky was full of stars. He opened an old photo album. On the last page was a picture of him and Major Adil, arms around each other, smiling. He remembered Adil's words, "If you survive, speak for us. If you die, someone else will." Zion had survived. And now he was finally speaking, not with anger, but with dignity. The morning was quiet, but in every city, people stepped out of their homes wearing black bands on their arms, old men in wheelchairs, young students holding candles, widows with framed photos, children carrying drawings of medals. They all walked silently. No banners, no shouting, no noise, just one message: we remember. One man's truth became a nation's voice. It started with a medal, lost, forgotten, stolen, but what grew from it was a movement. Zion never asked for attention. He only asked for justice, for himself, for Major Adil, and for every soldier who gave more than they received. Now streets across the country were full, not with anger, but with dignity. A silent walk in Zion's town, in his small hometown. Zion walked in the middle of the crowd. He wore his uniform one last time. On his chest, the restored medal. In his hand, a candle. Beside him, his wife, his son, and Auntie Nasim, the cleaning lady. Ahead of him, school children carried a banner with 3 simple words: truth, honor, memory, flashbacks. Along the way, as he walked, Zion remembered moments that shaped him. A young cadet saluting him during training. Major Adil's laughter during a cold desert night. The first time he held the medal in his hands. And the day he chose truth over silence. Every step felt like a goodbye. Not to life, but to the pain of being unseen.